What's good? Where's Jish? You're watching New Leafs on Life. No intro today. Just decided to do a quick live update. I'm not even sure what my last video was, but I know it was in regards to childhood emotional neglect and possibly with ego and all this other stuff. So I decided my findings thus far. Man, I am 4 weeks into this new paradigm of thinking, this paradigm shift, and it's incredibly simple, yet enormously profound. Those are probably the best words I can think of right now, and they really don't do it justice. So recapping my childhood emotional neglect, which led me into IFS therapy, which led me to release and exile. I think I spoke out in the last few videos how I came to the conclusion that I am blocking my emotions somehow, was just not letting them out. And it still is the case that there's some blockage going on, and I think it's just from my observation, it's a learned behavior that was stemmed from my childhood. And so with that exile released in IFS therapy, again, we didn't release or reassign the managers or the protectors to something new. And I came to that realization that I need to reassign specifically it's these managers, because the firefighters are still a problem out of pure habit. So that's another thing that I just have to get a handle on, and I'm in the process of doing that. But the managers, specifically the one that I spoke about, which is the survival mode or the self-defensive part that feels that I'm being threatened, I had to sit that part of me down. And it still, throughout the day, even if I'm not engaged with anybody, it still tries to rear its head when it's not needed. And that's just out of conditioning, out of familiarity, out of comfort. It has just been part of my existence. And so I've been playing outside of what I consider that to be, which is an ego. It's a conditioned ego. It's an identity that I believed that was a part of me. This reserved, introverted individual who stayed away from people because he found life and people in life to be cruel and somewhat demeaning. And the truth of the matter is none of that is the case. And I just had to come to that conclusion. I had to, again, set that particular part of me aside. And when I stepped out of that ego, it was almost like I had a costume on, right? A mask on. Sort of like the one you see me in right now. I'm playing an ego today. It's Tacky Day, so I'm playing Tacky Guy. Before I found myself out of that ego, I was very resistant to doing stupid stuff like this. Like literally getting in a costume, and I look really crazy. Like I have a white sock on, a black sock on, and my pants is tucked in my sock. I got on a hat, I got on what looks like a band shirt, right? And some slacks. And I'm even walking in the store with my hat on backwards, right? So I don't feel uncomfortable in this. When normally I would feel uncomfortable to do such a thing. It would make me feel like it just would make me feel stupid. But I stepped out of that ego and essentially reassign that duty of that manager part, that self-critical part, to simply enjoy the space that I discovered on the other side of my mind, so to speak. So we talk about the true self, and the true self is the witnesser or the awareness of the egos. If you literally look at how you behave, anybody can do this. This is not a religious thing. It's not some crazy spiritual practice. It's something that you just have. It's a fundamental truth for being a human being. You can look at your behavior. And if you can look at your behavior, and you know you can look at your behavior, you have to ask yourself then, well, who's looking at my behavior? Because if I consider myself to be how I act and my personality, then when I look at it as a thing in my mind, who's looking at it, right? That is the true self. That is at least, it's the layer behind the ego that you could call consciousness. And then even behind consciousness, there's this immovable force that you really cannot see. But it is you. It is your existence, your being. And I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I just really just been living this for the last 4 weeks, man. And when I tell you there's a transformation within. There's a transformation without. At home, this is the longest me and my wife have ever really gotten along since this first became a problem, shortly after we got married. And I'm grateful for that, because I knew from Jump Street it was I who had the core of the issue that was being emanated as an energy within my home and causing, you know, undue stress, unnecessary bad energy in the house. And it was because I had this core thing that was just on autopilot. I had to turn it off, and once I turned it off, once all the smoke began to clear, that's how I can best express it. A smoke machine that I had on that was just running, and once I turned it off and started fanning the smoke clear, it was like all this open space was out here. And I was walking, carrying this smoke generating machine coming from my body, right? So now that I got all of the smoke clear, and every now and then some smoke will try to come up and I have to fan it away, but I have this massive expansive space of possibility. And it's an infinite source of joy, because I realize I don't have to identify with anything but that. That I cannot get away from. That is who I truly am when I'm not thinking about anything. It is the one that is enjoying the ride. And so because I'm not identifying with anything, whether that be the negative or the positive, I then, because I'm operating from that space, I then see the potential in what I can do. Not what I can't do, but what I can do. And it's limitless. If today I wanted to quit my job and get into something else, I could do it. That's not to say anything of these things would be easy to just jump into. I would, of course, do something that would make sense. So just in this space, I just been operating in this space and trying to reprogram my beliefs about dealing with people, about being around people, about myself, about my marriage, about my whole entire existence. That's really all I'm focused on right now, is just reprogramming my world. Once I can reprogram my world, then I can start really jumping into the costumes of ego, of those things that I want to, not those things that have just been a part of me and just because it was a necessity to survive. And one of those, of course, is being a musician. Being a music producer. I still would like to jump back into that, and I still do on a regular. I jump back into that ego, that music producer that has conditioned himself over the last almost 30 years, and doing music, and I have fun with it, and I know all about it. I can jump in and I can play that role. I don't play that role while I'm at work, so the ego I jump into is the supervisor role while I'm at work, and these are the different egos. These are the different ways that I see life. And when I'm not at work or I'm not in the music and I'm sitting with my wife, I have my husband ego on. This is what I mean by egos. And this is the play that you have in consciousness when you are not so buried in the negative egos, the negative beliefs. And that's where I was. I was just so buried and so stuck in those, man, that I couldn't even see all this other stuff. There's too much smoke. Right? So the smoke is clearing. There's still some smoke in there. Even now, I can feel some of it trying to brim just from talking about it. And you know, it's not going to be an elimination completely of these things because we are human. You know, there's going to be moments where I feel bad about specific things because that's just how the body works. But for me to identify with it is where the problem comes in. Is when you believe that you're a bad person, or you believe that you know that whatever negative entity, or not entity, but whatever negative identity that you have within you is who you are. It's when you believe that that is just who you are, is where you fall into trouble. And I've been in that trouble for 30 some years. I'm out of that trouble. I do not believe any of that stuff. I know it happened, but none of that's happening now. Life is completely different. So I'm gonna get off of this video and get back to enjoying what I do, and that's the play in this expansive space. I put my supervisor hat back on. Well, it's a tacky day supervisor hat, so I still got to do work. All right. With that, you've been watching I Am Yish on New Leafs on Life.